Rosa, there was Ida. History's not boring, your teachers are. Take a seat for the classroom edition, deep dive, whatever you want to call it. Ida B. Wells-Barrett was born in 1862 in Hot Springs, Mississippi. She was actually born during the Civil War, so shortly after, in 1865, her and her parents were emancipated. Ida's parents, Elizabeth and James, instilled the value of education in their children. James was actually one of the trustees of Rusk College, where Ida would go on to attend until 1980. Unfortunately, she did have to drop out because her parents passed away of yellow fever in 1978, and she had to worry about taking care of her 6 siblings. So to take care of those 6 siblings, she lied to pass, about her age, to pass her teaching exam. Now that Ida's a school teacher and she's supporting her family, she decides that it's the best decision to move from Memphis to Shelby County, Tennessee, and that is where the railroad incident takes place that you probably remember from my short. So a quick recap of my short. So in 1884, Ida buys a ticket for the Chesapeake, Ohio Railroad. She has a first-class lady seat ticket, but the conductor tells her, you can't sit there, you need to sit in the smoking section. She says, no, I don't want to, I have a ticket for this seat. He says, I don't care, and forcibly drags her from the train. She follows up with a lawsuit for harassment, which she wins, but the Tennessee Supreme Court overrules it. While Ida was still a school teacher, she started to explore journalism. She would write under the pen name Lola for her local paper, The Evening Star. Her articles explored the daily struggles that African Americans faced, gaining her national recognition and giving her the nickname the Princess of the Press. Now it's 1889, and Ida's starting to think that she kind of wants her own newspaper, so she joins the Free Speech and Headlight as a partner and editor. She's still a school teacher at this time, but 2 years later, she gets fired because she exposes the public school system for how terrible it is. And after that, Ida was a full-time journalist until everything changed in 1892 when a close friend of hers, Thomas Moss, was lynched. Thomas Moss, Calvin McDowell, and Henry Stewart. They were the 3 owners of People's Grocery Store, and they were lynched because a local white grocer felt threatened by their business. After hearing about this, Ida was outraged, so she put an article in her newspaper exposing all of the inconsistencies within the narrative and highlighting the racial prejudices that people have to deal with while living in Memphis. In response to her article, a white mob went and set the Free Speech and Headlight office on fire. Fortunately, Ida was not there. She was visiting Oklahoma, so she was safe, but because of that, she was forced to leave Memphis. This experience set Ida in her ways. She knew what she was going to do. She started traveling and writing about all the injustices that she was seeing along the way. Later on that year, Ida went on to publish Southern Horrors, Lynch Law in all of its phases. This describes how lynch mobs are formed and the common excuses that the white officers used to justify them. Because of her extensive investigations, that following year, the Chicago Inner Oceans hired Ida to go undercover investigating lynchings in the American South. Now it's 1893 and Ida's living in Chicago, and good news because the World Columbian Exposition is going to be held there. But bad news because America doesn't want to include the Black community in the white city. Ida and other Black leaders like Frederick Douglass went on to report the inequalities that they were seeing. Ida collected reports from other members and compiled everything into a pamphlet, The Reason Why Colored Americans Are Not at the World Columbian Exposition. She handed them out while Frederick Douglass was a representation for Haiti. It's 1894 and Ida decides, I'm going to start traveling again, so she travels to the UK where she starts to do lectures on lynching. She actually becomes the inspiration for the London Anti-Lynching Committee. When Ida returned to Chicago, I don't think she would ever imagine the welcome that she would get. She returned to the Ida B. Wells Club, a place for women. Ida was not just an advocate for anti-lynching, she was also a consistent advocate for women's rights, but specifically Black women's rights, since she was noting that Susan B. Anthony was leaving them out of the picture. Ida went on to found multiple suffrage organizations that helped Black women. In 1895, Ida goes on to marry Ferdinand L. Burnett, the owner of the conservative newspaper, and this is where she gets her wish. She's finally owner of the newspaper after buying the shares from her husband. Later on that year, Ida goes on to publish the Red Record, and this doesn't just give the history of lynching, this also gives the statistics of lynching. Flashing forward to 1909, Ida has 20 years of research that she compiles into a report, Lynching, Our National Crime. She presents this at the National Negro Conference in New York City. This was the same conference where the founding 40 for the NAACP was selected, but Ida was not on that list. So that same year, she founded her own organization, the Negro Fellowship League in Chicago. All throughout the early 1900s, Ida continues her fight for anti-lynching and women's suffrage, leading her to run for a delegate seat at the Republican National Convention in 1918. And even though that was not successful, that did not stop Ida from running from Illinois State Senate in 1930. And probably a good thing that that wasn't successful either, because in 1931, Ida unfortunately passed away. When Ida passed away, she was a respected member of Chicago's Black community, but she was not fully recognized for her legacy until her autobiography in 1970. And even though she was not alive to see the civil rights movement, she is a founding pillar of it. I hope you guys enjoyed this longer form video. It was something new for me. If you like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. And if you have any ideas you want to see me do, let me know.